Okay, it's fabulous Friday in the 55 plus community. And you guys, I promise you that this week would be one you wouldn't forget as we talk about this is our last 2 days, gang, to get in on the Positively Unstoppable Challenge for 2024 to get registered. And I have to tell you, it's shocking, but for whatever miracle reason, we didn't get just one surprise guest. We have two in the house. And one, of course, just took his camera off. He's probably
Oh, sorry.
Surprise.
Something happened
Steve
to my
Pugh
video for a
and Pat
minute.
McDermott. And I have to tell you, because I may never get them back on again. So I have to tell you, I have been in awe of everything about DDPY since the very first day I began. But that was because I saw the journey that Steve, you, and Dallas took with Relentless. How many of you have seen Relentless? If you haven't, it's kind of like a once a month refresher you need to do, because that's who we are as a company, right? But I have to tell you, one of the best descriptions I heard Dallas say about DDPY was when a bunch of us champs were in, and he said, we're like, we launched this jet up into the air. And while it's up in the air flying, we are adding to it and doing all these things. And that is the best way that I can describe what I have seen in the 2 years that I've been in this thing. And Steve, I know I'll probably never get you back on again, but you notice Steve he's in partnership, right? You see that in Relentless. He and Dallas take this journey together. Steve, I've been in business with my husband. We did 45 years of partnership in business. I know what a gift it is when you can make it with someone, and so you and Dallas are like a miracle partnership at this thing. But Steve always stays behind the camera. So the fact that I was able to do this, I consider this my biggest 69th birthday celebration. Is Steve you is in front of the camera. You guys can see Steve, because honestly, yeah, exactly. Mike called it right. But Steve, I cannot tell you enough how proud I am to be a part of something that you have never subtracted from your vision. You just keep adding things to this jet up in the air. Like now, how you've been adding more and more things for the rehab for our knees and our shoulders and our all this. You keep adding the power cups. You aren't taking anything. You still keep the DVDs, which is beyond me why you do. But whatever. You guys didn't. I'll tell you what, I could not respect a company anymore, you guys. They're never going to subtract what they've offered us. They're just going to make it bigger and better. And so, I love you, Steve. And I do have to say, I've said this to many of you in the 55 plus community. The day Steve called me and said, we've talked about this for some time. Dallas and I believe we should launch a 55 plus separate community within our community where you guys can relate to one another. And the day you called me, Steve, I was thinking, am I a senior? Which of course I'm 69 this week, right? And then I'm like, oh, okay, Steve, whatever you think. And I'm in. But Steve, every day that has gone, and that I think that was September, October, you guys launched this for us, this 55 plus family. Every day that we've gone down this road, I have seen the value of what you and Dallas knew that we needed. And I cannot thank you enough for having the vision to set us just apart enough that we can relate to each other. It's powerful. And this moving into this challenge, even, it's richer for those of us to talk to one another on this 6-month journey together. So, okay, so I will give the floor to Steve, but then when Steve's done talking, I have to tell you what Pat had to do with my whole journey, because he's in the top 3 of all my victories connect directly to
Oh,
Pat.
wow.
Nice.
So,
Hi.
okay, take the
Yeah,
floor.
the funny thing is, I didn't shave. I was going to shave today, but I didn't because I was like, sometimes people think that I'm younger than I am, but I'm not quite, haven't quite qualified to be in the 55 plus group, but I'm going to be 53 this year. So a lot of people, don't realize that. So I was like, if I don't shave, maybe I'll look a little older today. And so sometimes it's, to me, I think the reason why we created the 55 plus group was because everybody needs to be able to relate to somebody in order to be inspired or motivated by them. And sometimes if we have someone who we think is different from us who succeeds, we kind of use that as an excuse to say, well, I'm older than them, so I, can't relate to it. So to me, it's really valuable to have, role models like Pam and Diane and all these other guys in here because sometimes we can't inspire people because they can't relate to us. And so it's super important. And that's why 55 plus exists because you guys have to be able to connect to be able to say, okay, that person did it. They're like me, or that person was worse off than me. And that's really the most powerful thing to me is when, you can watch someone's story and then say, wow, if that person can do it, so can I. So that's why kind of 55 plus is so great and Pam is doing a great job. We don't pay Pam yet to do it,
Hey,
to talk so great about us.
fill my life with purpose. That's more than money could ever buy. And these
Yeah.
other seniors know that. You just want to feel like you still serve a purpose at this age. So no,
Yeah.
you did give me plenty.
Yeah, and I think I mean, to me, it is at any age, everyone's looking for a purpose, right? And I think I'm very fortunate because it's like I found my purpose, fairly, or I would say, in my 50s, I found it, and I know that this is where I'm supposed to be. Some people are still trying to figure it out, and they might have had their purpose might have changed over time. I think even as we get older, I think the tendency is when we get into 50s and 60s and 70s and older, we kind of say, okay, my life kind of was what it was, and now is just for me to be a senior, right? Yeah, I don't know what it's like to be 60, 70 yet, but I think the perspective should always be the same where, life is only worth living if you have something to look forward to and you feel valued, right? So no matter how old you are, and I've seen it, and part of it is I've seen it happen to people like Pam, where they've kind of lost their way in life, or they kind of don't feel like there's anything left for them. But that's not true, right? And so when that changes, it's kind of proof that, look, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can reinvent yourself at any age. Like I think when we were doing the music video with Ted, one of the women in that group, she decided to become an actress in her 70s, right? And so it's really interesting because it's like, why would you just say, oh, there's nothing interesting left for me to do? It's like, why not, right? So that's why this group is so valuable to us, is that we need a group where people feel like they can connect. And then sometimes a big group is a little bit chaotic. There's a lot of stuff going on and a lot of different voices that you need to be able to say, okay, these are people that I can, the older generation always has a different perspective than the younger generation, right? So I'm excited that this group is growing. I think even, as it relates to the contest, I think people think, well, I'm too old for that contest. That's for young people. And I really disagree. And I think sometimes we get in a comfort zone and we say, well, that's not for me. I'm too old to learn this technology. I don't want to learn how to document. And I think that's, you want to really break out of that way of thinking where it's like, oh, I'm too old for that. Like I like to tell people how old I am so that they're surprised. They're like, oh, you didn't seem that old. And that's to me what is exciting about our community is when people become excited about getting older and proving what's possible as you get older, right? And that's, sometimes people are in a spot where they don't see it yet, but then like for you, Pam, it's like your life is completely different, right, than it was like a couple years ago. So, in terms of the contest is really meant to give you a reason to change your life, right? And, there's a lot of little incentives that we give, but a lot of times you're contemplating what you're unhappy with in life, right? You're just thinking, ah, I wish my life was better this way, or wish I was more mobile, I wish I didn't have pain. And you can get caught in that kind of mindset of just saying, well, this is my life, right? But I always like to say, what can we do to make you believe that this year you'll change your whole life, right? And it's exciting because you can change your whole life in a really short amount of time, even 6 months, which is the contest. But even if you just look at it as a year, right? Most people don't realize how much they can change in their life in 1 year. And that's what kind of our whole company is based on. It's like we're trying to convince people, like, look, you might not be happy with where you're at, but we know because we've seen it happen so many times that you can change your life in a year or less, and it's dramatic, right? You've seen Butterbean, you've seen Scotty, and you've seen how much they've changed. Scotty is, we were just talking yesterday, he's only been here like a year. He changed his life in 6 months or a little bit less, and now he's a different person. And that's kind of the whole idea of the contest. It's like, look, just use it as a reason to do it. You don't have to use it to win, but I will say, if we get some good senior stories, I mean, you have an advantage because for us, if you look at it from a business standpoint, look, if we can get someone in their 60s or 70s or 80s to change their life, it proves to everyone younger that they can do it, right? So for us, if we're picking champions and you change your life at 70, it's like, we're going to be like, look at that story. That story is going to change so many more people's lives, right? Including seniors. And so I look at it like, look, don't think that you can't win because you're older. You should be like, man, if I change my life and I show these people what I can do, I have an advantage over someone who's 30, right? So you can look at it that way, but also just use it as a reason to do it, right? Because it's like, you can just sit where you are and, you don't do anything. You don't go forward if you just do what you do. You actually go backwards, especially as you get older, right? So you have to kind of choose, am I going to keep going backwards or I'm going to change everything, go forward? And that's sometimes a hard decision because you're just on this fence of thinking about why, all these reasons why it's hard, right? And that's the hard part about change. Is like, it's so easy to be like, well, my knee, I have a knee problem. I can't do any of that. But, I think I was talking to Nadia's dad who's visiting, and he was saying, well, now I'm motivated to get into shape for my daughter's wedding so my jacket fits. And I'm like, that's kind of boring that your jacket fits. Why don't you get in the best shape of your life this year? And it's much more exciting to think about it that way, right? So, that's basically the contest to me is like there's reason like and there's no risk. It's like it's just a reason for you to change, right? That's why everybody should do it. It doesn't matter. So anyhow, that's my rant about the contest. And Pat and
But
Nadia do an
yeah, but
unbelievable job
Steve,
promoting it.
you were the visionary. You had a vision that this program should be put in place. But it's everything you guys add to our DDP life. Now the championship thing is added in to all the other things you're doing. And this is a high maintenance part of your program right now, right? This next 6 months, 6 months, right?
Oh yeah.
So when you guys are doing this, it's not only everything you just said to us, but it's also all the load you guys that they just put on their shoulders. I would never want to be a judge. I don't even know how you get anybody to go step into that realm. But all that you guys are doing to make this happen for us is, to me, another mind blowing thing.
Yeah. Well, and I would also say that, look, we say this is the last week to enter, and I think that it's a big push because we want you guys to just sign up and look, you don't sign up and then there's a billboard that, oh, this person signed up. You just sign up so that you know that you're about to do something, right? And that's all it is. And the hope is that you follow through and then, in the fall, your life is different. But, again, if you don't sign up this week, we're not going to say not to sign up after this
Right.
week because, we want people to change their life no matter whether the contest is there or not. But this is the last week to sign up. that gives you the most time to change, right? It gives you 6 months, right? If you sign up next month, fine with us, you'll just have 5 months to do it, right? It's okay. I mean, the reality is if you just sign up in 5 months left, you could do something way better than someone at 6 months. You just got to be a little bit more consistent, So this is just a line in the sand that says, hey guys, this is the best time to sign up and start so that you have the most time possible. Even if you kind of slow start the first month, at least you're moving forward, right? So that's kind of why we're like, all right, guys, sign up now so you have more time. Ultimately, this isn't about 6 months. This is about your life, the rest of your life, right? But we like to put this little time frame so that you push yourself more. And I always find having a goal that you're a little bit more aggressive on is way easier because you see change happen and it motivates you. Like you're saying, okay, I got to do this in 6 months. And every time you make more progress, you start gaining momentum and then it becomes easy. Like in the beginning, it's hard. If you say, oh, I'm going to change it over a course of 2 years, it's sometimes so slow that you'll lose your way, right? You're like, I'll skip this workouts this week because I still got 2 years to do it. And that ends up being the wrong mindset. So, I would just say, last thing I would say is, look, if you're thinking that if you're in this group, first of all, you're in this group because you want to change something in your life, right? And so what are you doing? Like you're just watching? Like, so you should just sign up and then, yeah, you might start a week after you sign up. Doesn't matter, but signing up is kind of putting your toe into the water, right? Okay, I'm gonna try to do this, even if your brain isn't 100% ready to do it. You have all these people in this group who will help you get ready, and that's part of the process is convincing yourself that it's time to do it. You know, so um, you and Pat can talk a little bit about the benefits of why joining gives you an advantage too, because they have this whole other community. It's almost like, hey, do you want some extra help? Well, sign up for the contest because you have all this help. And that's like, why wouldn't you do that, right? At the end of the day, if you sign up and you don't submit, it's not the end of the world, right? But by signing up, you can join the contest group, and Pat and Nadia are constantly giving people help. So it's like instead of just doing it by yourself, you have this whole team of people, including the champions, that are at your disposal. So it's almost like, well, it's you know your loss in some ways if you don't do it because why wouldn't you want all these people? Like you have a question, you just put it out there and then they answer it, or one of the champions says, let me help you. It's so much easier that way. And Pat can talk a little bit about what they do in that group, if you haven't been in there.
Okay, but before we toss the ball to Pat, I have to validate exactly what you said, Steve, about Pat. So I started January 20th, 2022, signed up in DDPY and signed up on the challenge the exact same day. So I was completely new. It was like a foreign language, everything that even they'd say PC. I'm like, what does PC stand for? Performance. I mean, they didn't even know they have a language in there that is like, I knew nothing, right? And no cool hairstyle, no tattoos, no body piercing. So I felt like a foreign land. But I'm telling you, there were three voices that gave me my success. So within 10 months from that day, 77 inches were gone, 80 pounds in 10 months. But I'm telling you, it was because of Pat and Nadia and I called him Coach DDP. I had three voices that I locked and loaded to. Now you will hear, even in our community, there are people giving advice on food choices and it's great, right? I'm not going to reel anybody in because Steve told me I don't have to. Let them share what they're doing, right? Steve, you told me I don't need to edit. I don't need to edit everybody's opinions, right? In
Yeah, I think it's it's an interesting thing because you don't want people to have too many opinions that they have to choose. But, there's also value in everyone has a different experience in what made them successful. So I don't like to slap everyone on the hand every time they want to suggest something. I think that the goal is to make sure that people don't get too many opinions on how they should eat or what they should do. So sometimes it's good to listen to the leaders that are people we put in place first, just because, we've always tried to simplify it and say, look, keep it simple and don't try all these other things. You don't need to, right? You just need to be real consistent and it'll all fall together and you'll figure it out. So, don't necessarily chase after the fads or the challenges or all of that. But, I think it's exciting to have a group of people that all want to help everybody. So it's sometimes hard not to be like, hey, don't give too much advice, because then, that's why it's a little bit looser, I think, in the seniors group and probably even the contest group, where we let things happen. And we step in where we think, okay, this might not be the best place for this conversation. So,
Yeah.
we try to be as loose as possible with it, I think.
But I have to. So this is my journey. I'm telling you, my success connects directly to Pat, Nadia, and Coach DDP, because those, if they weren't saying it, and you said it, Steve, when you sign up. Matter of fact, if you haven't signed up today, sign up today, because you immediately get to be in the back wall of this thing, which is another private group that Pat and Nadia run. And you guys have recorded a bunch of the journey already, January and February and March. So they have buckets up there that you can go and listen to the stuff that you've missed to this point. And Pat, I can't thank you enough for taking, I'm a CB student, and I like how Steve said they simplify it. Yeah, you think? I mean, I came in and I was overwhelmed at all the ideas out there. And I'm so grateful that they gave us three clear voices. And DDP was on the app, right? But whatever he would say, I would be like, oh, he's coaching me. Like he's talking to me personally, right? So that's why I called him my coach. I didn't meet one person, nobody in DDPY until my 9th month. I went to the performance center and met Nadia, basically attacked her, met Steve there, right? But until that time, all I knew was the app and everything that Pat and Nadia said. So Pat, I thank you. I know there are others that can say, the community changed it for me. The community, you guys give me it's like a brother sisterhood. They gave me the mentorship that I absolutely needed. And Pat, I'll never be able to thank you enough. And just so you guys know, right now, before we hand him the ball, he's usually got 3 computer screens in front of him.
I still do.
Yeah. So this guy is working at a level. The fact that you two came on, you guys, this is a miracle. I'll never get this again. So let's keep him going. But yeah, so he's doing so many things, all for all of us. So Pat, whatever you say is pure gold. Take it
Um,
forever.
so yeah, basically, when Steve and Dallas approached me, and then later Nadia came on board, as what we were doing with the challenge, it's kind of like with everything I do at DDP Yoga. I've been doing this program. In May, it'll be 12 years, right? And my whole thought is always to pay it forward. And one of the things with the challenge that I thought was so great is I could help people kind of avoid a lot of the pitfalls I fell into by not, like for me, it was always, I was very stringent about, let me follow the program, let me follow what the information that's there. And that was what helped lead to my success. I could put in my own things here and there and find out what worked for me, but you have to go on that journey yourself. But it helps to have that, the guiding lights, right? So Nadia and I we sat together and we came up with, if you follow the challenge, it's almost like a little syllabus, right? Of ways to help you be successful mentally, as far as the workout, nutritionally, like things that you're gonna want to look into. And we keep it, like Steve said, we keep it like broad for a reason, because there are so many different things that work for different people, or people might want experiment with something and go, well, that didn't work as well for me. Let me try this instead. A lot of it over the last few years, I can't tell you like how amazing it feels to see people who take the challenge, not just become champions, but take the challenge in general. And they come in 6 months, like you said, you came in, you didn't know much about the program or what this was. 6 months later, they become a better version of themselves. That's all I hope for when someone enters the challenge. Um, and it takes it to a different level when you can see people, they learn to start documenting things. And it's not just for us for the challenge, right? A lot of them documenting stuff is so they could look back. Like I can look back now and show you my pictures from 12 years ago, right? And I could tell you mentally who I was, and I could tell you all those things. It's all changed over time and continues to change, by the way. Um, but it's so cool for them, and it's powerful to be able to look back, right? Like, wow, look what I did in 6 months. Look what I did in a year. Look what I did in 2 years. Um, and one thing I always tell people too, like, don't look at it. Um, and I know Dallas will say this too, like, don't look at it as, oh, I want to win and I want to win the money and I want it. Like, that's all great. That's fantastic. The real goal is to create sustainable change in your life that you can move forward from the challenge with. And if you want to enter year after year anyway, it's only going to help you, stay accountable. It's only going to help you repeat those steps that you're going to need because what does Dallas say, right? Repetition is the mother of learning. It's true in everything. The more you practice something, the better you will get. Um, so I'm really thankful that I get to work on the challenge and I get to be in there with the people. And one of the things again that Steve kind of touched on is if you're looking for um if you're looking for people who are extremely motivated, that group is the place to be because it'll be I love the big group, but the big group can be loud, right? It can be noisy and it can be intimidating because there's 80,000 something people in there. And it's fantastic. And there's a lot of great stuff that goes on there. But if you need something a little more intimate, a little more quiet, and a little more to kind of feel like you can come out of your shell in a smaller place first, this is where you want to be. This is going to help you. And it's got the input of us putting in like, hey, we do we do Facebook lives and we do them the first 3 months. We try to put them on the main page as well as the group and kind of get everybody involved and more people to enter. But another brainchild of Steve, we started where we were doing these Zoom calls last year. And we, last year we kind of learned a lot as we went through them. I've got to tell you, this year, these conversations we're having with people are amazing. And so they're not broadcast anywhere. We do them and they're one and done, right? So you don't have to worry about being put up on the internet, being seen anywhere or anything like that. But it's a good place for you. Especially like I know when I started, it was really tough to talk to family or friends about because everybody's got an opinion, right? And sometimes you just want to be heard, or sometimes you just want to say what's on your mind, but you don't get the constructive criticism back. And the real world is not a nice place all the time. So we try to provide that so that people have a place to come, say what's on their mind. And if we have, things that have worked for me or Nadia, we offer them, but we even tell you at the beginning, like we don't offer them from a place of, oh, I have a degree in this thing or that thing. This is just my personal experience and this may help you. That's a lot of what we do. But we intentionally keep things kind of, uh, I don't want to say like, oh, we don't censor, but it's kind of like we don't really go through and take down one thing or another. Like you said, we don't, if you have an opinion or if you have something you're doing, we kind of just let it be for the most part, unless it's something that's going to be hurtful to someone. Um, then it's something we have to act on. But um, we want people to experience these things because it's for me, the biggest thing I hope we can offer people is personal development, right? Like that's part of becoming a better version of yourself. And if you walk in and 6 months later you can do that, it's going to take more mental victories than it is victories on the scale than it is, even your nutritional victories. The mental victories are the biggest and most challenging ones. So that's like the most important thing I think to target in that 6 months.
Yeah, I would also say, I think, being part of the community is really positive, is really, people will say, well, I can't do it on my own. A lot of comments we'll see on the Butterbean video is like, well, I wish I had all that support, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, that's a lot of times people looking for a reason why they can't change, right? And it's like, well, that guy had all those people helping him. No wonder he changed, right? But that's kind of the point of what we're trying to create is we
Yeah.
try to create as much of a support system as possible, as close as we can to you being here, right? So that's why all these groups exist. That's why Pat and Nadia have these events every week.
Yeah.
And then you have each other to support each other if you don't have a support network at home. So, it's really just be careful of being an excuse maker for yourself. Like you're telling yourself, well, those people had a different, I can't do it, because it's really, that's what's going to prevent you from changing. Because it is, Dallas says the story you tell yourself is, it's the same as say you can, you say you can't, you're right, is, when you convince yourself you can't do it because you have all these reasons, then those are the reasons why you can't do it because you made them the reasons, right? So we're trying to make it so that it's hard for you to have those reasons, so, you know.
Thinking pretty powerful. Um, okay, you got, and by the way, I must admit, I love your hair, Mike. I should have had that today because I'm looking at this thinking such an important day that I have you four guys on here, which by the way, Dennis, thank you. I can tell you're on audibly. And thank you for keeping trying to get back onto this thing. Bless your heart. So to have all of you on here and Steve and Pat, and I'm thinking, and look at your hair, Pam. What were you thinking today? But so very quickly, I really would love you four guys that represent our senior thing. Go ahead and wrap the two questions kind of in one. I'm going to go on the order in which we had you listed, but just share your name if you're okay with your age. Share your age and tell us a little bit about where your mindset was and kind of where you're looking to have the changes in your mindset. So kind of wrap that up in those two questions at once. We're going to start with the wild hair child. Mike, go take the mic. Tell us your journey.
Okay. My name is Michael or Mike. Just call me Chicken Little. Uh, I'm 71 years old, and I started DDP 5 years ago. It was January 2019, and it was working for me, but I wasn't really consistent, and that's what you need to be consistent in your life. Until this year, when I started joining up this 2024 Unstoppable Challenge, I told myself I ain't getting any younger like Steve. And I'm starting to get a little bit more crazier, as you can see. But I started my journey like I'm a diabetic. I have high blood pressure. My weight was on the way out of range. As you could probably saw some of my photos, that there's one that was 390 pounds. And I did get down to 267, I think, in 2020. But then I gained a little bit more back. But and physically, I was born with a handicap. Since then, I've had numerous joint replacements. And, mentally, I was crazy, I guess. I was always competing because I was bullied, and I always compete. I don't like the kids call me limp leg and all that stuff. And then I was really thin back then. I mean, I was 135 pounds when I was a police officer for a little town, but I can't go back to that. But emotionally, I was nervous. I had headaches. I had stomach issues. Mentally, I was younger. I tried to commit suicide, and after I retired, I was thinking, when I started being on my own, I started thinking of more suicidal thoughts, because I thought, can I get this weight off? My orthopedic surgeons said you have to get the weight off to make your joints last longer. So I took my plan of suicide and ditched it in the wastebasket. And now I'm consistently monitoring my food, and I love sheep pan dinners. So
Yeah.
I love fried foods, but sheep pan dinners are a lot better than fried foods. DDP helped me in my confidence, my energy, and my consistency. And I think the most important thing on my list of the list was tracking my progress, taking those pictures. I mean, I got pictures from 2019 until now. And I think after my program, this 13th week, I'm going to take another set of pictures and start comparing. I think I've progressed a lot. I mean, look at that. You know?
I love
Yeah.
the photos you post. Like,
Yeah, 71 years old, babe.
yeah.
You know?
And he's one of the few in our 55 plus that actually takes the time to take photos of his food. The rest of us go to eat it before we've even thought to take the photo. So Mike, you are our poster child in the 55 plus for putting amazing photos of the food that you prepare for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, but you are a character, Mike. So it's amazing to hear that your mind has gone from that far direction to where it's at now, because you really are one of the joys I look forward to in our 55. You are so funny. Every time you leave a message, I'm like, that guy's so funny. I don't think I have a sense of humor until I hang by you and read your line. He's like, oh, he's joking, right? So thank you for being in our family, Mike. We're excited to see how this journey goes for
Me
you.
too. Me too.
So Dennis, I know you made it on audibly. Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, and they will see below this video, they'll see a photo of you anyway, so they're going to get to see you that way. But if you wouldn't mind, Dennis, sharing just a little quick part of your name, age, and your part of your journey, your why, where your mindset is.
Okay. Well, my name is Dennis Detweiler, and I'll be 80 years old come November. And I'd had my second stroke, and I wasn't depressed, but I just pretty much given it up. You know, I didn't. What's the use? I'm in a wheelchair, and there's just not much left. But we played cards with a good friend, couple of ours, and they mentioned something about DDPY. And to be honest, I'd never heard of Dallas Page. I could care less about wrestling. But for some reason, I got on the computer that night and looked it up. And then I saw,
Arthur?
the guy that parachutist.
Oh.
That
Arthur
was in
parachutist?
on that video, the first video. Yeah. But anyway, I saw him and I saw what a remarkable change he had made. And I just kept digging deeper and deeper. And then I had been kicked off of Facebook, and I swore I was never going to go back on Facebook again. But since Dallas recommended to get on Facebook, I tried it, and I ran across Pam's video, and that kind of solidified it for me. And I'm glad I did, because I love this group, and I think I mentioned a while back, the having this group and having the videos that I do. This is my 131st day of continuous. It's like having friends over every morning to go exercise with. You know, I've never met Hayden or his wife or Dallas or Paige or anybody, but it's every morning there's somebody new that I can go exercise with, and it's like family. And I really enjoy that part of it. But I'll just have to say, I think we've all been put on this earth for a reason. And my reason, as hard as I tried to wrap my mind around it, my reason for being here on this earth was not to sit in a wheelchair or sit in bed convalescing. And I knew I had to do something. And this was a godsend, to tell you the truth. The other morning I was doing my exercises, and I forget which one it was. I think it was Dallas that said, "This is not a pain with no gain exercise," and that I really like that, because that's one of the reasons why I never exercised. Was I hated all the pain without, pain with gain. There's no gain without pain. I hated that saying. And I like this because I can work at my own pace. Right now I'm going back. I thought I was ready to move on, but I found that I need to go back to the stand strong. And this is my third time through the stand strong. I've got to get that balance right down. I'll just stand with this. The stroke affected the part of my brain that is affected when you're drunk. And then I've also got a challenge with my right leg doesn't always do what I want it to. So I would just kind of shuffle around like an old drunk, and I got to get over that. So, I think this is an awesome program. And I didn't get into the challenge to win the money or to even compete. I'm competing with myself to show that I can finish strong and I don't have to cheat to do it.
Whoa.
That's great. Pam, I have to
Yeah.
drop off, but before I drop off, I just want to say, like, I'm gonna watch the whole thing later after you guys are done. But to me, it really is so valuable for you guys to help us to prove what's possible, right? Because for us, like, yeah, we can say, hey, you really should do this in your 70s and 80s, but nobody's going to listen to us unless we have people that show this is what's possible, right? So, I think in the sense that you guys are doing this and you've shifted your mindset to say, I'm in my 80s and I can change, that's going to change so many people's lives who are kind of where you were. You guys are the only ones that will change that. So in some way, I hope you guys understand that there's a responsibility that I hope you guys see as a positive, that, you know, I hope that you guys can prove to everyone that, no matter how old you are, there's so much you can do to improve your quality of life and what you're able to do. So, to me, it's like we can't prove to people that it's possible without you guys. So it's really important, you know.
But Steve, thank you for coming on. You've been a giant blessing. Really appreciate it. You may never do it again, you guys. Might be our
This is the
historical.
last one I'm ever doing.
No, we'll write this down in
Thank
history.
you.
We
Thanks,
all
Steve.
saw this, right?
Yeah, no, I'll come on again. But no,
Oh,
I thank you guys.
and I'm
Yeah.
telling you, this is a miracle.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys sharing your stories, and I love hearing them. And it's exciting to me that you guys have the mindset that you can change, because that's the magic to me, is like convincing people they can do it, right? And so you guys are on your way, and then you'll be able to convince other people, and that's how we change more people's lives. So it's awesome.
Thank
So
Thank you,
All
Steve.
right, guys, I gotta jump. I
Thanks,
gotta
Dave.
drop off. Thank you, guys. I'll
Pat,
talk to you later.
Pat, can you stay on so we hear these next two and you?
I'll stay. Yeah, I'll stay on.
Because I want Pat to take it on home. This is way bigger than me. There's no way I want to end this one. So we'll let Pat take it home. But the next one we have, of course, is John. If you wouldn't mind doing the same thing, John, just share with us, who you are in your journey.
So my name's John Femister. I'm from Northern California. I just turned 55 in January. And so represent the newbies, right? Just like Pam, you mentioned that last year you signed up and immediately got into the challenge. So I was in just the end of my week one, and I'm looking around and I saw the things for the challenge, but I didn't think it was for me, right? I said, I'm the newbie, don't know what's going on yet. And then I watched your video from last week with Miriam and Vicky and Nadia. And I'm watching, well, wait a sec, these are all normal people. They're not trying to win. I think Steve mentioned not trying to do it for the money or for the competition. They're trying to just improve their lives. And I thought, well, that's kind of where I'm at. And as Pat and Steve mentioned, with regards to that more focused group of kind of supported individuals, is kind of what I was looking for when I'm trying to do this next phase of my exercise journey, if you will, or my life journey. And so that was my motivation to sign up. So right after watching last Friday's video, I signed up for it. So that's how I'm kind of in the competition. So my goal here is, like I said, my weight was very high, just like Mike was mentioning. So, but dropping my weight is a progress report to me, right? Am I walking better? Am I feeling better? Is my blood pressure down? All these things I want to do for more quality of life is what I'm looking to get out of this. And I think that should be the overall sentiment if you're getting into the challenge. It's not necessarily to win the prize, but it's to improve yourself. And like I said, as a newbie, I was a little frightened. The documentation's still a little scary. Not used to putting all my stuff online like that, but I'm willing to go through it because there's a great support vehicle behind me. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Wow, that's so cool, John. Wow. I can't wait to hear all these stories further on down the line too, Pat. Okay, so Rick, no pressure, but you're the last one to go just before Pat wraps a bow around it all. So tell us your journey, Rick.
Just so you know, it's really hot in here. My eyeballs are sweating. They're not crying.
Mine have been
This is powerful stuff. Thanks for everybody for sharing. Wow. 5 minutes before I come on here, I had just found out that I lost a friend, passed away. So this is kind of hard for me, but that just shows you how fast life changes. That's why we got to live till we die. Live under our terms. Don't let pain dictate it. Don't let anybody put limits on us. Let's live our life the way we want to. And that's what I plan on doing. I guess my when I decided to do this was 4 years ago. My family went on vacation and I couldn't go because I couldn't sit more than 10 minutes without screaming, wanting to scream, which was nice when you was in traffic because I'd roll the window down and start screaming and cars would think it was a police siren behind them all over. But so there I am laying there obese. I was laying on a heating pad and the cover was uncovered off of it. And I was hurting so bad it was burning my stomach. I didn't care. I would rather just lay there than try to turn over and take that pain. Lay there and take the burn. And when I woke up, I had holes burnt into my stomach. And I said, what am I doing? This is it. What am I doing? So I decided to start DDPY. I started with the discs. So when you see my first pictures, it's nothing what I was like when I started. I've lost well over 200 pounds with this. I'm doing things I never thought I'd do again. You got to realize that I used to be a bodybuilder and I trained with Mr. Olympia. I was actually in muscle fitness twice for him. And here I am obese. But I'm starting to lift again. unbelievable. I would never have thought possible. And I'm 56, by the way, and I have been told many a time I got a body of an 80-year-old, but I'm changing that. Uh, so my big why is my son has autism, and I've basically the last 9 years have been able to work and then lay down, in pain. Didn't get to give him attention that he needs. But from now on, he's going to get it because I'm living life on my terms. And this challenge is it helps you through so many things. Your mental, it proves to you you're unstoppable. You've got a whole bunch of people that are there for you that you can reach out to. In fact, when I first started, it was for the money. And within 3 weeks, I'm going, you know what? These changes is what it's all about. I could care less about the money and about who. Oh, we just lost my father-in-law. So I may have to go. Darn it.
Yeah.
But you guys hang tough. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'm gonna have to leave. So thanks.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, Pat,
Absolutely.
responsibility. You're my mentor. You're my leader. You put a bow on this thing because I sure.
So, first of all, thank you everybody for being on here today. And I think is really, really cool that you guys were saying, and when you document your stuff and you post, like John, you were saying that like, you didn't really want to post online at first. You're going to get more and more comfortable with doing that over time. Trust me, the first time I took my pictures,
Yeah.
I put them online because, and hear me out on this. When I started, I was 28. The thing of this, I just turned 40, right? Still young whippersnapper, right? But the thing is, at 28, I saw all my friends from high school and everywhere else moving on to careers. And I was, 340 pounds. I had just moved back with my folks. I had a terrible, breakup with a rocky ending that like everything just felt like it was at rock bottom. Then my car broke down completely and I put the last $70 out on a credit card to tow the thing home and I was completely broke living with my folks, right? It was probably the closest thing I would ever say. To me, it was rock bottom, right? I had to rebuild and the only place I could get a job at the time, I had to borrow my mother's car to drive to the local grocery store and make $7.25 an hour, right? And I was like, I put the last money I had from prior to that aside and I bought this program. And I said, this is going to be, if this isn't going to change my life, but this is going to be the structure that I put in place to change my life. And I think one thing I really started to learn was the more time and value I put into myself. I never really understood that before. That's when things started to change. That's when my perspective of myself changed. And that's when I started sharing more and more and growing more confidence, right? And it's crazy. Things I started learning, I kind of thought everybody knew. And this is why sharing is so important, right? We don't have a shared consciousness. So it's like what I might realize at, let's say, 35, I might tell Pam and she goes, whoa, that blew my mind. I didn't think of it. But she might tell me something completely different. And I go, whoa, that's awesome wisdom that I didn't have yet. Right. And that's the big thing about this group or all these groups really sharing is we get to share those experiences, no matter how big or how small they are, no matter if they're a non-scale victory, a victory on the scale, a mental victory, learning things about what's going to work for you nutritionally. It's so important to document it because you're going to help somebody else. And a lot of times, and I've encountered this in the group, sometimes people will go, I post this thing and I didn't get enough likes on it or I didn't get enough comments. Do you know how busy people's lives are? Right? There are so many times, and I'm sure you've experienced this too. You're reading something, you're really digging it, and then something outside of your phone interrupts you and you don't get to like it and you don't get to write the long comment, or sometimes you're in the middle of writing a dissertation back to somebody and my kid will be like, I need you right now, daddy. Okay, boom, come back. What was I doing again? So a lot of times the impact somebody made, whether or not you get those likes or those comments or what you think it might get. It doesn't really matter because somebody's seeing that somewhere and it means the freaking world to them. And you're also documenting it for yourself over time, right? So you might over time, you take all these pictures, you get really good at documenting your story. Then when you show that, like, hey, I went from this day one to the end of year one, boom, here I am, people go, whoa, that's crazy. And then they can see everything you did leading up to there because you were open and honest about it. So like the documentation, the challenge, being in the groups, just being social is so important, and that's what I love about this the 55 group. I'm on an admin here. I'm not in here much because it's not really my group. You know what I mean? Um, like I come in here, I'm like, I don't want to be giving advice or talking to anybody saying like what I think, because I don't want to feel like, oh, here's this young guy telling me what to do. But the challenge, same thing, right? Like the challenge is, I'll tell people as well. I'm sorry if I'm going too long, Pam. I'm just like
There is
yak yak.
no such thing. Seriously, we can take this on
See
for
this?
24
Here's
hours.
the thing. I got to put Nadia over real quick. Nadia is a structural genius. Like she could just take stuff. I'm like throwing stuff at the wall and it's all like these different nuggets, but she'll just put it in this thing and it all makes sense. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. But it's that group, that challenge group. Like I'll tell people too, if you join the challenge and your goal is the right goal, which is to become a better version of yourself in 6 months, it may not, and I've had talks with people about this too, it may not be 6 months, might not be your story. Remember, it's a capsule, right? It's a sliver of your entire story. So sometimes you'll see people enter once, twice, three, four times, and then like, but you see them mature over 3, 4 years, right? Because it's not just, there's pillars to our company. There's the mental, there's the nutrition, and there's the physical, right? So, or fitness, if you will. But that mental transformation is the one that it ties everything together so much. So the more you're sharing, the more you're putting yourself out there, and it is uncomfortable. Like the thing about me that you guys don't know is I was like high school, all through school, total introvert, right? You wouldn't know that because I don't shut the heck up once you give me the microphone. But that's who I was. And I think the more and more you do it, just like Dallas always says, repetition, right? Like he came to me one time, he's like, you're a really good talker. I'm like, when did that happen? You know? But but that's a lot of what it is just that repetition of being honest with yourself, and it also teaches you how to help others with just suggestions. It doesn't have to be something like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. Well, this is what worked for me, and this is helping me right now. And I just thought I'd share that with you. And I mean, it's so powerful that I see so many people helping each other in these groups. And when people join the challenge who have no idea, right? Like if you're watching this right now and you think, oh, a challenge, I'm not really competitive. It is the weirdest challenge you'll ever enter because nobody's competing with each
Each
other.
other.
They're competing with themselves.
So,
And we're lifting each other up, which is like if you enter any other sort of like, I'm not going to crap on any other brands or anything, but it's like if you enter some other challenges or competitions, it's cutthroat. That's not what we are here. It's about helping other people. It's not about dragging other people down. It's about lifting other people up. And I guess to kind of close that off, that's the reason I'm here. Like I got the opportunity to come to this company and pay forward what Dallas taught me. And that's what I want to continue to do the rest of my life, is just continue to pay that forward. So I hope you guys, all continue to pay that forward, because it's like each of us is like an offshoot of what Dallas does, right? So we each go, every time you help somebody, you're doing exactly what Dallas did to build what we have now.
And I think just to speak on top of that, because one of the things I've noticed, Pat, you talk about posting our successes and stuff. I
Yeah.
think if you're having a bad day, posting
Mhm.
that as well, because what I've really seen, especially in the challenge, is the fact those who are having challenging days, you're getting inspiration from your fellow competitors. You know, they're saying, hey, don't give up. Okay, you've had one bad day, start again. All of these are just as important as posting the victories as well.
Yeah, and someone mentioned consistency, right? A really important thing that I have learned, a person who thinks they're a Terminator and a robot sometimes, right, is consistency doesn't mean every day is the same perfect, here we go. Consistency just means you're showing up for yourself in some way, shape, or
Right.
form, right? You're valuing not only like that you're exercising, you're doing your best to eat well, and your exercise might vary. It might be something small in comparison one day, so you can continue to keep that habit going, and getting adequate rest. All those things work together in concert. Like that's what consistency is. It's not, you don't need to build some people like to build a streak, and I'm not saying anything against that, but you don't need to build a streak. You can have a consistent schedule. It's like, hey, okay, this day I rest, but I work on eating correctly still, and I work on valuing my sleep time. Those things are huge, and we don't talk enough about them. Like nobody talks enough about them.
Whoa. Mike, you've been pretty quiet, and even Dennis. I mean, seriously, if you have, this is your moment to ask Pat a question if you have one, because it,
Oh, sure, by all means.
I don't
it,
know. I'm kind of nervous.
I'm nice. I'm nice. Mostly.
Pat, Pat, one of these days you'll be our age anyway.
I'm catching up. I'm catching up.
But I found out that my Fitness Pal, when I printed it up, I print the menu for the week up that I can check on it and see what my sodium was, what my fats was, and this and that, because I am also the leader of TOPS, which is take off pounds sensibly, and I have all these
I love
old
that acronym, by the way.
ladies, yeah, all these older ladies up there, and that's why I got the rooster hair, so I'm the rooster. So, and I'm starting to put on Dallas's Motivation Monday.
Mhm.
So I'm calling it Motivation Thursday for them. So
Yeah.
they listen to that. So yeah, but the menu, I always go through it and say, what did I do wrong and what can I do better? To eating wise, because it's not just eating and exercising, everything, it's all combined.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like when it comes to eating too, or nutrition, in a perfect world, like we all know what if we could be, perfect robot people, whatever, right? We know exactly what it would be, but it's like, dude, real life gets in the way. Like if you're working, or if even if you're working at a desk or something like that, and you gotta get up, or you get fatigued, like you gotta think ahead. And like you said, seeing where you were, some people meal prep works. Some people having like a meal service. I did that for a while, especially when we were in between. We had one kid and then we had another, and it was just like, man, I need to outsource something in my life, right? And so that was like key for me. But then it's like there's so many different ways. We just talked about this the other day. Like I'm a big believer in, I measure my food out. I use like a food scale. And then but Nadia was talking about, they have these portion cups that literally will be like, this is where you put the your protein, this is where you put your carbs, this is where, and it helps you create a balanced plate that way. And I'm for whatever helps you with that. Same thing with sodium. Like if you're particularly watching sodium, like that's an important marker to watch. Like I always tell people, I've got one of the kids knocking at the door obnoxiously loud right now. But I
I,
always tell people like my current goal, and this isn't for everybody, but I try to get 50 grams of protein per meal because I'm trying to build muscle. And I'm also trying to stave off hunger, and that's what keeps me feeling full, and it seems to be what works best for me. But I think everybody should kind of get in tune with their nutrition, what they should and shouldn't have with their doctor, and like especially when it comes to sodium levels and things like that. But I think it's awesome that you look at it and you go, okay, it's like setting a plan of attack, right, for the next week, how to
Yeah.
be more successful. Like, okay, here's where this thing happened, and I'm really big on, not not using like negative language. Like I used to be like, oh, here's where I messed up, or here's where I effed up, or whatever I would say, right? And I've stopped doing that because it's really not going to help me. It's just like, here's where I was human. Like that's what happened. Here's where I was human for a bit. But I can, like you said, I can look at it and I can go, okay, but I can make a challenge to myself to do a little bit better this week.
Sweet. Oh my word. Oh, I know your child is banging at the door. I suppose the child is dictating, which by the way, before we hang up, tell about your family dynamics. How many you are managing? I know your
Oh,
latest.
I have 7. Actually, I think I heard someone take a spill. I've got to go. All right.
Okay, we
I'll
get
see y'all.
thank you.
Thanks, Pat.
You got it.
But
Thanks,
Bye.
Pat.
before the rest of us close out, I do want to make sure and screen share so that they see you guys on this thing, because Dennis in the center right here, you didn't see his face during the whole thing. So Dennis, thank you for coming on to this. And it's pretty powerful that you guys did this. Fabulous Friday. I think this one's gonna go down in the history books. You guys, this is pretty powerful. I can't thank you enough for just having the guts. Obviously, there are people that didn't want to come on, that said, I really would rather not. I'm like, that's okay. But you guys said yes. So thank you. Thank you. I know this
Thank you, Pam.
is
Thank
gonna
you,
be,
Pam.
that's gonna be,
Hey, you just got to be your natural self. You can't,
Yep.
yeah, some of us with our hair, right?
Yeah.
Love you guys. Thank you for all